We're playing Minecraft video games. Welcome y'all. Linux, welcome. Good to see you. Alright, first game here. I like it. Okay, last second we were joined by a party. Hopefully they are not to where... Pink is just cheating, okay. Gray is probably not cheating, but very good. Abstract, welcome, welcome. Yeah, my day was... okay. Pretty interesting. Yeah, I would say it was good. Oh, yeah, it's probably a very good day. I would say that. Basically, at work it was very chill, and I had a lot of time to consume very interesting YouTube videos about political and societal debates for hours and hours. And now my girlfriend is at her babysitting job, and that enables me to do some work. Like in general, I would have done that tomorrow, but I will just try to perform as much of the work as I can today, and then be able to go with her and my cousin to some cafe or something tomorrow. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. Did you... I don't watch football, I really don't think that's any interesting. I'm past the point at which I used to say that football is stupid and I hate it and everyone who watches it. I'm past that point, but I still really just don't enjoy it or consider it to be any entertaining, which is totally fine. People probably also consider my hobbies not entertaining. Tiddles, welcome. ABCD, welcome. I thought you were in Linux. You two look very alike if you don't look properly. Mr. Sarcasm, welcome. Welcome. Wait, why is it your first time chat? I recognize the name. Oh, I know why I recognize the name. It's because you followed. But you must have not said anything in chat yet. Okay, I at least got the iron. Here we go. Germany lost against Paraguay, if I saw that correctly, huh? Well, bad for them, huh? Oh no, Germany, Paraguay, football. Shaking my fist. Now's the time to start beating up my wife. Fun fact. These sport events like soccer and everything make the frickin' violence against women at home performed by their husbands statistically significantly worse. Is that to say that you should ban soccer or something? Probably not. But
I'm gonna cut off my balls.
Something there isn't good. Something there isn't right. I'm not smart enough to tell you what to do with this information, but it's not good. Not only that, obviously, all other sorts of violent crimes are also spiking, but you know. I'm downsized making food, that's good. It's a tragedy, yes, poor women and children and everyone who's affected by it. Probably also like 2 men who are getting beat up by their diehard soccer fan wives. Shout out to you as well. Or like shout out, tragedy to you as well. I feel pitiful. Yeah, I don't know. Sad stuff, that's all you can say. I wish I would have gotten another hit. All I can say to that, I, by the way, don't think we're gonna win this game. All I can say to that is, not all men, but for some reason, most of the time are men. Do you consider yourself a modern... Hey, I'm the #1 Invis catcher. You ain't getting past me without getting noticed. Nope. Why do I hear block placements without seeing anyone? Oh. Oh, heh. I'm super confused. I hear block placements without seeing anyone, and then teammate spawns out of nothing. How is that even possible? Oh, I'm so sad. The thing is, I didn't consider that I'm with a very good teammate. This is Oteda on a second account, so in theory I could see us having a chance here, you know? I think there's another Invis. I think I saw particles exactly where I blocked the bridge. Okay, you deal with that guy. I bet it's gone. And I'm gone with it, because whenever you fall in the void and your bed gets broken, for some reason the void starts being super deep. Oh, also, by the way, what I mentioned earlier also leads to the fact that we're going to be streaming for 2 hours today. Shout out to my... Wait. Perfect moment to do this. Shout out to the 2 hours, if we're already at the topic of giving shoutouts. Nick768877. I really like it, because would you look at that, we have hit our follower goal of 1,800 followers. GG's. Jeez. Thank you very much. Tiddles, you should probably... Yeah, you should probably have a subscription to not see advertisement on your phone. That would be quite handy, wouldn't it? Nice, teammate got one of the yellow people, and both yellow are dead. Wait, is this guy... Nah, okay. He's just taking KB just fine. Yeah, in today's media I consumed, what was it about? It was about, are men... Oh yeah, that's the same topic I mentioned on one of the latest streams. Are men also being discriminated against? And sadly, we didn't get an answer. It's quite sad. We ended up dancing around the actual thing itself. However, it was still interesting, and we still discovered many interesting things. For example, how to do proper research, and how to interpret statistics, and a lot of interesting stuff. For example, there was someone who said, oh, by the way, I looked at this statistic, and it clearly says, and it's quite the credible source as well, because we already sorted out all the not-so-credible sources, and it's quite the credible source, and it, for some reason, paints an image of, I think, if you compare white people to black people, then for some reason the black people are 2 times as likely to be punished harder in court. I was just about to mess it up in my phrasing there, but no, they're 2 times as likely to be punished harder. Interesting. And then if you look at women versus men, all of a sudden it's 2.8 times harder. So you could make the argument of, oh yeah, that must mean that men are being discriminated in court, because clearly, and it's even worse than racism, you know. However, what I didn't factor in, and what we ended up discovering, is that, after all, you can't just compare the two like that, because there's no difference between different crimes. And that's why I almost messed up my phrasing, because I was almost about to include that in my phrasing. But no, that wasn't included in the statistic. The statistic just listed every single crime that was being looked at in front of the court. Like someone stole something versus someone murdered an entire family. That was all just put into one basket. And naturally, you could assume that men, on average, commit probably more violent crimes, whereas women commit more crimes of, I don't know, theft and deceiving people and whatnot. I think I saw a statistic at some point. And I'm also pretty sure that I saw a statistic that black people commit more violent crimes than white people, which is not because they're racially inferior as some crazy thing that alt-right people are going to tell you, but instead it's just a natural consequence of 10 million things. I produced a 20-minute video essay on exactly why that is, but I never uploaded it. But that made it so I looked at all the statistics, and in the end, I can tell you it's probably not because they're genetically inferior, but instead it's just because of racism, actually. Because of historical racism, black people commit more violent crimes. It's that easy. And are less educated on average and everything. Obviously, this all when we look at the United States. But what all this... Oh, he did the trick, cool. But what all this does in the end is that all of a sudden, these numbers of 2 times as likely and 2.8 times as likely... Is he gonna make it? Oh, that pearl just disappeared. All of those numbers have to be interpreted much differently. And in the end, we went very far away from our men being discriminated against, but we did some very interesting stuff and looked into very interesting statistics. Did you hear what... Oh yeah, I heard of that. I don't know what exactly happened, but I think what happened was there was a man who... I'm just gonna name the information I have. From what I've heard, there was a man, he went into a daycare facility and he shot his ex-wife, presumably, who was in charge of the kids, and the kid itself, and like 3 workers at the facility. I think that's what happened. Very sad what happened there. I've got no clue what exactly was going on there, and if he was allowed to see his kids or whatnot. All of that doesn't really matter too much at this point. What does matter, first of all, is that it's a tragedy and it should never happen. And I think there's a term for this. You know, femicide is a term. However, there's an even newer term. I think this arose in the past couple of years, which is called familicide, which is something people like using more nowadays, even though I haven't seen it used ever. But familicide is once a partner deletes his entire family, wife, kids, and everyone. I don't know, there's probably more that goes into this. I don't know if the motive also plays a role here. I don't have enough information to properly understand the situation, but just wanted to toss some words into the room so you can look up the case that happened in Stade and look up what these words mean, and then maybe you can get to your own conclusion. These are just some leads you could be using to inform yourself. After all, I don't have enough information to tell you what happened there. However, Haverstroke is saying, Twitch user, welcome, finally you've got a subscription. Welcome to your PC. And Mika Goated, welcome. But Haverstroke said, I love how we were supposed to get a pretty over-the-middle government this election cycle, but this one politician kept messing up the elections, so we got a really red-green government, which is very good. I assume red-green is Socialist Communist Party in combination with more progressive environmental party, I would assume. And yeah, that sounds pretty good. Cannot complain. I have to admit that recently I have been leaning into, not leaning as in I identify with the political views, but I've been informing myself on the whole... Okay, I was just about to say weird bridging, but no, his bridging looks completely legit. I was informing myself on communism, on the theories behind it, on Stalin, on Lenin and Trotsky, and however they're all called, here we go. And I'm starting to get into what exactly their theories and ideas were. Obviously, at least when it comes to Stalin, maybe the ideas are a little overshadowed. I don't know if there were any good ideas, so I haven't looked into especially this figure too much yet. But if there were good ideas, and maybe they are overshadowed by like 40 million people that were brutally slaughtered. I don't know if this is the actual number, maybe it's 20 million. And I also don't know how exactly this number was gathered. I still have this number from my old Nazi days. It might just be blatant propaganda, but I'm pretty sure they did kill quite a couple people. But yeah, I don't know, interesting, and I'll look into it because it's just interesting. don't know how to morally fit it into my worldview yet. But I learned a lot about precariat, proletariat today. It's quite interesting. Not to say again that I agree. I would be foolish to already agree with any of it or disagree because I just don't know enough yet. But it's interesting, and I really think I'm gonna look into it more because I don't know. Those are the types of topics that I really enjoy reading about. However, may I ask what party did you vote? I'm not gonna publicly disclose who I voted for, but I think from some things that I mention online every once in a while, it's probably obvious that I, for example, didn't vote for the far right parties or for the center parties even. I probably have voted for left-leaning parties, you could assume, just from the worldviews that I tend to convey in my streams whenever we talk about this, you know. I also learned in the past couple of weeks that libertarian apparently isn't as good as I thought. I thought libertarian sounds good, freedom and everything, but from what I've understood, apparently it's just freedom of the market, unregulated capitalism, and unregulated capitalism, we talked about this on stream earlier, or not earlier, but also the past couple of weeks. Unregulated capitalism, just as unregulated democracy, is not good. It's bad. You should not have it be unregulated, because that's going to lead to a whole bunch of issues, and we don't want to have to deal with. Yeah, it's very sad, but yeah, new things learned, not bad. They immediately made public transports free for young people and made dentists free with funding plans on how to. That is amazing. I think dentists are already free here in Germany, just like everything healthcare related, or many things healthcare related. But like, for example, public transports, to be fair, are also free. Largely for young people, but not officially because of the government, I'm pretty sure, but just because the educational facilities pay it for you out of their own free will, which that doesn't sound realistic with how I understand our current economy. Maybe it is because of the government. Maybe there's something going on that makes them have to do this. I don't know. Who is your favorite politician? I don't have a favorite politician. I do have parties that I enjoy more than others, but as for politicians, I really struggle to really say I like. Obviously, I like some politicians more than others. I think that's obvious, but I don't have strong enough feelings for individual politicians. As for me to be able to say, oh yeah, this is my favorite politician from the left party XYZ, that's kind of hard for me to say. First of all, because I'm really not that informed. I just sometimes hear interesting words and then I'm like, oh, I have to tell my stream about this. I'm way too uninformed to tell you about who my favorite politician is. But also, yeah, there was also another thing I wanted to say. I just forgot about it. So yeah, I don't really have one. Dentistry was considered cosmetic. Whoa, that is insane. That's crazy. That's not good. He didn't take AB, that's pretty sad. It was for people younger than 21. That's weird. Oh, just get that. My friend is here. My teammate. Why is it so much more interesting to talk about politics and stuff than to play this game? It's not good. I have to play the game, don't I? Why not both? Huh? What? What were we talking about? Xeno, welcome! We could have had Prod 2 with that. That's kind of sad. Yeah, there was multiple diamonds. Xeno, multiple! It's so sad. It's so sad. That oh yeah. It's... Hey! Oh wow, he killed me immediately with that. That's kind of sad. the moment I looked at my screen, I immediately knew he was in this. But like, then he immediately just hit me into the void, which isn't super profitable for me. Well, that's kind of sad. It's kind of interesting how political views can change so much over time. Like for me, I've mentioned time and time again that I used to be like a proper Nazi. And nowadays it's just, I'm pretty much on the exact opposite spectrum. I like to call my worldview ego, like, you know, I'm gonna have to see how I can translate this into English for it to still sound cool. Let me think about that for a second. I think you could translate it with ego-literistic. Because that stems from the two words egocentric and utilitaristic, which I hope is the English translation. I've never heard the English translation, but it sounds like it could be the English translation, which at first sounds like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's a fancy word for this, but I don't really know what the word is anymore. A fancy word for when something you say is like in itself doesn't seem to make sense and like opposes itself. There is some sort of fancy word from literature. Technoblade could probably tell us as an English major. I can't. I'm a stupid guy. I just went to med school, and not even the proper med school. I went to the dumb people med school for the lab technicians. All lab technicians are pretty dumb. I'll take that back. That was just messing with people. I like to be provocative at times. I don't know if you have known. I don't know if you already knew. However, to explain that... Thank you, Twitch user, for 10 bits. Thank you very much. Very nice of you. Thank you, man. Why 58 to go? No, that's 68 and not 69. I'll see where you go with this. However, oh, for a batch maybe. Oh, that's how many you've got left. Yeah, maybe spread them out throughout many streams so we have more fun. However, to explain that, egocentric, obviously, because I would say I'm a quite egocentric person, quite the egocentric person. I'm very interested in my own well-being, and even though over the years it went down quite drastically, I would still say that I could identify myself with that description quite well. And utilitaristic, again, if it's a proper translation, as far as I understood, is pretty much the worldview of wanting the most people possible to have positive stuff happen to them, to explain it in very simple terms. That's how I understood it. Maybe it's wrong, I don't know, maybe correct me here. And the way I understand this neologism of the two words being pushed into each other is I want the most people possible to have good happen to them, but above this want I have, above this need for many people to profit off of stuff, is my own persona. Like, if something benefits the greater good, but it goes against me as a person, I don't want it anymore. But as long as it's content with me or it doesn't concern me at all, I want it to be for the greater good of the most people. That's how I would describe it. And I just realized that today, because don't ask me how that happened, but for some reason part of the debate I was listening to today was the whole... Apparently there was a debate about if people should be forced to be vaccinated in the corona thing that happened here in Germany. It never happened, but there was a debate about it. And I personally, if you ask me, I think people should be forced to be vaccinated. I think the right to remain in charge of your own body, perfect description, should be undermined in this case. I don't think people have a right to decide what happens with their own bodies once it comes to a topic like vaccines. Because utilitaristic standpoints, because in the end, If everyone is vaccinated, it's for the greater good of the people, and there's less people dying than if maybe the vaccine has like 0.01 people who die from it, which I don't even think it has. I don't know what the actual statistics here are. So in the end, if all people are vaccinated, less people die than if no one is vaccinated. That's what I thought. And thus, I want people to be forced to have to take the vaccine, you know? It's significantly lower. That's even better, see? I can't do math, so... however, I listened to this guy who I think of quite highly, and he said, I'm totally for the vaccine. I am vaccinated myself, even multiple times. I think vaccine is great. I really like this guy. I really think his opinion I valued quite greatly. But then he said, but I don't think people should be forced to be vaccinated. And then he went into more detail and explained it. And this whole thing got me thinking, wait, if I wouldn't want to be vaccinated, then I would not like people to be forced to do it. My ego would stand above the utilitaristic standpoint. And then I realized, wait, I'm utilitaristic to the point where I myself don't profit off of it anymore. No, where I myself have to take negative sides of it. Not that I don't profit off of it, but have to take negative sides. Dark Veldra, thank you for raiding over. I hope your stream was great. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you here. Welcome. Awesome to see you. What did you do? Yeah, I couldn't come up with a good example because I don't really know if there's any instance of this actually kicking. I feel like, for some reason, my ego-centric views are apparently just always on par with the utilitaristic views. Maybe I just haven't found the right example yet. I'm very sure that that is the case. I struggle to find a good example of this. I really do. I was learning... Oh, that's actually super interesting. That's very cool. Nice. A stark majority of people are egocentric. Yeah, I also believe so. Thank you for your follow, Dark Veldra. I thought it was Veltra. Just had to make sure it's Veldra. Yeah, they probably are. But I myself, I would say I'm probably more egocentric than the average person. However, I can't really find an example. No, I really can't. But for example, if, and I'm unsure if this is the case, I'm pretty sure it's not the case, but if I had to pay more taxes, like, I don't know, double the amount of taxes, for example, if I had to pay double the amount of taxes that I currently pay, and that would be the for the utilitaristic good of the people, like, more people profit off of the system once people like me pay double their taxes that they are currently paying, then at that point I would be like, yes, I understand that more people would profit off of that, but I personally like myself more than most people. So I don't want this to happen. However, this changes once I'm a billionaire. Xeno, very good, thought of you. This changes once I would be a billionaire. Because even if I was, it's easy to say it like this, maybe it completely changes once I get into this position, but luckily I don't have to think about it, because in my life I will never be a billionaire, just like no one watching here is ever going to be a billionaire, or anyone you personally know. But like, in theory, like, being a billionaire is less likely than dying from the vaccine. But I'm pretty sure of that, even though I don't know statistics very well. However, if I was a billionaire, then you would think, okay, your egocentric views would probably make you believe that you shouldn't be taxed, right? However, I don't believe so, because if I'm a billionaire and people tax me 90%, it's not gonna change my lifestyle. Even if they tax me 99%, me being a billionaire, being taxed 99%, I don't think that would make a difference in my lifestyle. Again, I'm not good with math. Maybe 99% taxing a billionaire doesn't leave him any money. But I'm pretty sure even 1% of a billion is still millions, right? I don't know. I can't do math, but I'm pretty sure I'd still be a millionaire, at which point my lifestyle doesn't change. The only reason billionaires would fear for that money to be taken away from them is either irrational, or if you actually look at functional reasons, is because this amount of money makes them be able to engage in activity they shouldn't be allowed to engage in. Like altering the course of entire countries by directly influencing democracy, because democracy isn't very well regulated in most countries. Or, for example, I don't know, building up a huge pedophile ring, which I think you can also do with millions, I don't know. But it's very easy with billions, I can tell you that. So, like, everything you can do as a billionaire that you can't do as a millionaire is not necessary, but in fact, most of the time just very bad and shouldn't happen, you know? You know, that, so yeah, I think even as a billionaire, I would still be for the utilitaristic good, because I don't think my egocentrism would take over there. But it's very easy to say that beforehand, you know? It's very easy to say that beforehand. I generally don't think there's any reason anyone should ever have more than 50 million. I would probably place that even lower. 50 million is a pretty good placement, but I would go as low as 20 million, probably even. Just recently, Zaz and I were talking about it, and I figured out that I always thought if at the age of 18 someone would give me 10 million, it would be just enough to cover all my expenses so I wouldn't have to go to work anymore in my current lifestyle. But after talking to Zaz, I realized it's probably closer to 3 million. Like, obviously, if I want a little more, if I want to up my lifestyle slightly, I could maybe have 5 million. But I really don't need it. I can be happy just fine. Obviously, myself and I can be happy with like 3 million. It's fine. Iron Richard, welcome. However, in the end, no matter where you place this, if you place it at 3 million, if you place it at 50 million, it doesn't matter. In the end, billionaires shouldn't exist, and people should probably also not have 100 million. Like, I think we can all agree on that, most of us. Yeah, I can still speak German. Contrary to popular belief, I still speak it in my daily life much more than I speak English. Okay, let's see. Anything above doesn't matter, I agree. People don't have that money liquid. It's Xeno, we're talking in theoretical examples, obviously. As I've mentioned in another stream I did a while ago, there is an interesting argument to be made that you couldn't tax billionaires this way, because naturally they aren't billionaires in the way of I have $1 billion on my bank account. This is, I just assume this to be common ground for us. I assume everyone to be this educated, and I don't think there's a leftist who actually thinks billionaires have billions on their bank account and it can just be taken away from them just like that, and then they don't have these billions at that bank account anymore. That's like, I'm not saying I know how to do this, and I am not saying I've ever heard anyone who said, oh yeah, this way you could do this properly and fairly, but I'm pretty sure there is a way to do it. But I don't think I should be the one who has to come up with this. I think the government should be the one to come up with this. Even though for us it's probably interesting to like think about it, how in theory it would be made. But if we're being honest here, we are not going to be the ones to do it. So maybe we should be the ones to have to think about it and be like, oh yeah, if I don't figure it out, then just have them be in the moral right to keep the money. No, I don't think that works like that. You also can't tax billionaire too much on unrealized assets, such as stock. Yeah, that goes into the same category. I don't know how to change it. I'm just a stupid person who heard billionaire and tax at some point in their life and then thought, maybe that those two should go together without having a no in between them. So I don't know how to change it, and I'm always open to learn stuff. I have more and I'm not evil. Twitch user, why do you only donate 10 cents at a time then? Can we up that a little bit? You can't, I assume, buy and not buy a Ferrari GTO with 50 million. There's, I don't assume this to be honest, like an honest argument, but like, I don't think you're being for real, but I think before people should be buying Ferrari GTOs, we should get rid of people who can't afford food and housing. And not as in gas chamber get rid of them, but get rid of them as in take the money from the people who can buy a GTA Ferrari and give it to other people so they can afford food. I feel like that would be a good thing to do, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Joe Fox, welcome. Xeno doesn't share that view. I wonder which one. Your teammate has found out you're streaming. Oh no. Oh no. A way you can kind of work on it is taxing unrealized asset and get borrowed again. I have a very small brain. My neuroplasticity is very low. I cannot participate in that argument. Twitch users also saying, oh, absolutely not. I don't know what this refers to. Dragon Echo, welcome. Oh, no, Twitch user, we don't like this. Raven, welcome. Communism, I have to admit, communism is saved in my brain as no bad, but I'm pretty sure it's just Western propaganda. I don't know if communism is actually bad, but for some reason I have this very deep resentment against communism. I don't like it, but I couldn't tell you why, so I assume this isn't very rational. I feel like at this point communism, just as racism and everything, is somewhere inside of me, but it doesn't make sense, so I'm gonna say, yeah, that does make sense. Let's not hate communism or black people. However, in the case of communism, I'm unsure. In the case of hating black people, I'm pretty sure that shouldn't happen, so... Communism, maybe, as I said, I'm looking into a lot of that sort of stuff right now. Maybe I'll find out communism is pretty good, maybe I'll find out it's bad. So far, all I can say is communism didn't seem to be going too well so far throughout history, but like that's the most Western USA argument to ever be made, so I don't know if that's a smart argument to make. We'll see. Jamaica Craft, welcome. I would say give me a Prime sub, but you have a subscription. What am I gonna do? Still try to give it? I got an MVP++. That's good. That's good. Draven should be learning, but maybe first he's supposed to be learning about politics. So I hope any one of you knows something about politics. I don't. Please teach him. Alright, oh, Krogorm. Let's see, Battle of the Fates. Just like back then when Developer King and ZazVGC dueled. We're gonna see who's the better teammate. It probably also depends on me. So that's a slight downside for teammate. But who's better, Oteda or Krogorm? I think Oteda has like a 70 monthly and Krogorm has 17, so... chances are... But then again, Krogorm has a teammate who's actively participating in game, which might be an upside for them. Okay, you don't pay taxes on stocks until you sell them. Yeah, I've heard of that. So which people... Oh, that's realizing an asset? I actually do learn stuff today. Awesome. So which people borrow money in the bank against those unrealized assets and the bank lets them... That's how that works. Nice. I've heard that rich people just found a foundation so they don't have to pay taxes on stuff like having their ancestors inherit their money, you know? That's pretty cool. Krogorm doesn't have great political views and Teda has better ones? I do not know. I cannot tell you that. Big farts? Yeah, very good, very good. I'm all for that. Sad. Boy Wifey sounds like a cool name. You unlocked Dream Feast. Wow, GG's, man. Where's Krogorm? Okay, you avoided. Today is the last day of 1.8 on Gamma. That is surely a good decision for them. Oh, teammate already died. Well, can I die too then? I'll try to collect some more resources before dying. Or stats. I also wouldn't mind stats collecting. Then again, I feel like even though blue looked kind of newbie, maybe they are not. Maybe I won't go there. Oh, this is starting to be a less and less good situation. Ooh, this is pretty bad. Okay, this diamond doesn't matter to me. Doesn't give me XP. Financial advice. Did I say anything connected to financial advice? What did I say? Letting the diamonds lay on the street or something? Oh, because of the because of the foundation. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Wow, that guy has a bunch of Hypixel levels. That's not good. Aw. Pretty sad. You back already? Question mark? Yeah, I always thought Bill Gates was a great guy, and then the whole Epstein file thing surfaced, and then I found out he probably has this foundation not because he wants to do good, but maybe because he just wants to inherit his wealth without having to pay taxes on it, and like all the money he gives away there also isn't really anything compared to what he makes or owns or something, I don't know. And it all seems to be just a little bit of a cover-up. But like in the end, I've always been one to say, it doesn't matter why you're doing good, even if you do it out of egocentrical motives. That's pretty cool. You're doing good. Net positive. But like the rest of it, like the principle below all of that might not be great. It's still better than not doing good, but the principle he's making use of maybe shouldn't happen still, because I think if you wouldn't use that and instead pay proper taxes, maybe more good could be done, depending on which state you would pay these taxes to. Obviously, if you pay the taxes to the state of the US of A, maybe, I don't know if good stuff is gonna happen with it, or if they're gonna use it to shoot innocent people, and like, I don't know, shoot black people and do other fun stuff that I don't necessarily advocate for. Yeah, knowing governments, it would not be used well. If anything, maybe Bill Gates moved to the frickin' good governments, or first world countries, frickin', I don't know what they're called, Scandinavian countries. If anything, maybe give it to them, but I'm a government worker. Nice. I was about to say I'm also a government worker, but maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Not gonna disclose it. Could be not. Some people who work in my profession are not government workers, some are. Can be this and that way, you know? Oh yeah, it's all pretty great. It's all pretty great. Did I get that? Was it my bed break? Yeah, it was my bed break. Awesome. I wanted to read a message that I somehow missed. I just realized. Here, Xeno says the other people should work for their shit. We were talking about people who can't afford food or housing, and Xeno says these people should work for their stuff. Let's assume this to be an argument made by someone who genuinely believes that. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, first of all, I can tell you, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have agreed to you 100%. Yeah, I agree. Or I used to agree. But nowadays, I kind of don't agree anymore. Why is the... Oh, thank you for telling me. The subscribe animation. Wait, how long was this been going on for? Thank you, Nikatushu, and welcome. Yeah, nowadays I kind of don't think that is a thing anymore, but I cannot tell you why. It's another one of those feelings that I have in my stomach area. And I don't quite know why I have it, or if I rationally agree. There's a good argument to be made about disabled people here, I see that. Like, at the current moment, from how I understand the system around disabled people and them working, disabled people are straight up being exploited for their workforce. VoidXOG says, hey sis. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So that already isn't good. And then there are people who can't work because they're disabled. Then again, how I understand the German state is they still get money. They still get supported financially. They don't have to not have housing or not have food. So that's pretty good. I think I understood something here. And it is... I am all for taking the money away from the rich people and giving it to the following group of people. The group of people that are not in the position to not eat food or have housing because they're lazy, but instead because they just really can't for some reason. Because, I don't know, because they're disabled, because minimum wage is so low they have to get additional support from the government, which that's already happening, especially to women, or other reasons. There are many reasons. I think all of those people should actually get the money to afford their food and housing and everything. But on the other side, I'm unsure if I would agree that the people should get money past that. Like, at the point at which they can sustain a living, they can afford to eat, they can afford to have housing and everything. Everything that goes into the sector of enjoying, spending money to enjoy things past what you have to spend money on, I have to admit I'm unsure. That one, I don't know. I cannot tell you if I agree to that yet. No. You have been denied with your jump pod. Okay, finally we get a clip for one. I don't know, I cannot tell you this. It's like very hard. It's very, very hard. It's very hard. However, this is like... I don't think this is even figured out yet, because when I looked into this, the whole topic of... are people, like, can we still afford anything? Like, is the state going to survive? Is our financial system or economical system going to survive people getting money for free to the point where they don't have to work anymore to live? Then, from what I've seen, I'm unsure if research really has an answer, or if I just haven't found it yet. It's a very, very complicated topic, so I'm gonna move away for a sec to just read a couple messages here. It's a different thing for people that are unable to work. That's pretty good already, etc. But if you just give them a lot of money, you just make them dependent on your money. I just don't think that that is how it works. I don't think I'm gonna agree to that. I think where it gets more complicated is if we allow everyone to, in theory, not have to work, or like if we allow everyone to just have to work for anything that goes past food and housing, I think there's a huge incentive for people to work to just improve their quality of life, as in do stuff they want to do and everything. I think that incentive could already be enough, and I say I think because I don't know if it is, but I assume it is enough to get people to work. But if we have a system where people work more or less for fun, which I don't think is the same as working for being able to afford more than just food, but like if we go one step further and say everyone can work voluntarily, and like if they don't, it's fine, they can still afford stuff, then how many people are still going to work? Probably a lot. But how many people are going to work in the sectors that nobody wants to work in? I think at that point there's also a problem. I think this is very complicated, and I personally don't see myself qualified enough to make a decision here. I think this is where it gets very difficult. But like, we already have a common ground at the point where people who can't afford food or housing because of whatever reason should probably be able to afford food or housing. I think that is pretty good. That will lead to even less people working. Kind of, maybe this is not what you are trying to say with that, but that kind of doesn't mirror the actual situation in Germany right now, because I think the latest numbers are there's like 30,000 people in Germany who don't work because they're too lazy, because they say, I don't feel like it. And all of the other people from the 5 million people who get money from the government are either working, but it's not enough to pay them anything, or they can't work because of many different reasons, like it's not their fault. So maybe you didn't want it to sound like that, but it sounds like this is a problem. Like, looking at the German society, there is no actual problem of people who don't want to work and they're so bad and whatnot. And even if the 30k increases to 60k, it doesn't statistically matter at all. Like, this isn't a problem at all. Maybe if it increases to all of these 5 million are actually people who are too lazy, at that point, that's not good. But like, I don't think that is realistic at all. I don't think that is any realistic in general. Thank you, Axum, for the follow. Haberstalk also disagrees. Cause here we go, now it gets interesting, cause that's our system here. And no, and sure, there are a couple people who are lazy asses. Hey, come on. But it's pretty rare, and it helps people who can't get employment for whatever reason, but can't get into a system like FlexJob. So it looks like your system is quite similar to the German system. Grundsicherung worldwide, as I said, I don't know. More people in Germany don't work because their jobs earn them less than Grundsicherung. More people in Germany don't work because their jobs earn them less than that. More people than who? More people don't work than what other group of people? If it's more people more people don't work because their jobs earn them less than this, against people who can't work or against people who do work but still get money, then no, then I'm pretty sure the numbers suggest different. It's the same with supporting countries in need. They become dependent on their money and their basic problems won't change. I don't know anything about that topic, so I'm not gonna say anything to that. I don't know if that's the case or if it's not the case. Cannot tell you because I don't know. When it comes to the general topic of donations, sometimes people are confused as to why donations seemingly don't change anything. And I have watched a very interesting video about that, but I don't remember it too well anymore. All that I remember is that the amount of donations necessary to actually change something is so much higher than the actual amount of donations that are being made, that is the reason for why it doesn't have a measurable effect. But you should still donate. It's still good to donate. Like, there's still going to be people who probably don't die because you donated. But if you want to know more about that, I can share a video real quick. What is their name again? Here we go. Because I think this is a pretty good video about donations. I don't enjoy the company behind this video. The company behind this video I strongly disagree with. But this channel in general, despite who pays them, is a pretty good channel from what I've seen so far. So I'm gonna show you a link real quick if you want to know more about donations. This is the link. I think this is a pretty good video. Okay, dude, this is so interesting. Haberstroke assumes this is due to corruption. I would assume so too, but I think it's foolish for me to make assumptions because of how little I know about this. So, just off of my gut feeling, yeah, I assume so too. Wait, now I have to actually look at my screen for a second. I should have just become a political channel instead of a BedWars channel, honestly. This is so much more interesting than BedWars. Oh man. Okay, I think in the future, the jobs that nobody wants to do... Okay, before reading the rest of this, I thought of AI and robots and everything. I was like, surely those jobs are gonna be performed by AI and robots and everything. But especially countries like Germany probably are not going to do that within the next like 100 years, knowing us. But let's see what you said. Can we replace by machines? So I do see the vision that we have a society where people work voluntarily just for some privileges and ideas, and I think that would be a good system. I think humankind should invest money and effort and whatnot into technology that makes it so nobody is forced anymore to have to be productive in order to keep living, or to be less extreme in order to afford stuff they like. I think it should be totally voluntarily, and I think this would actually in the end be a much greater positive for our society, because whenever there's someone who does something because they're genuinely interested in it, all of a sudden, like when everyone just works... Oh, this guy's cheating. When everybody, like, if you have a person who is passionate about something and they get to be paid for their passion, then this is much more, like much more worth than 10 people who work because they have to. This person is going to be so much more productive. This person is going to be coming up with genius ideas and just supporting the field they work in so much and finding out stuff that's very valuable for us as humans. And I think in the end, even though we're gonna have less people working, the people who do work are just going to be so much more efficient at increasing the human knowledge and increasing everything for the positive even more because they're passionate about what they're doing and don't just do it because they have to. So I'm also all for that development. Welcome to the left party, Draven. Not the left party as in any particular party, but welcome to the left spectrum. Awesome. And the people who have to pay more taxes to pay the lazy people, they're... Okay, I must have missed a message before that. I'm sorry, man. In Denmark, there's 10,000 people who have been unemployed for longer than a year. This also counts as students above the age of 25. Blah, 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 blah. That is crazy. What the hell? How is it so... Does Denmark have people? That's 3 times less than the lazy people in Germany. And the lazy people is like 50 times or 500 times, again, I'm very bad with statistics, less than the entirety of people who don't work. So what the hell? That's crazy. 6 million people. Okay, you basically don't have anyone in Denmark. There's nobody there. That makes sense now. I think Austria has like 9 million, I would say. I believe. I don't know, but I think they have like 9 million. I like Austria. It's a good country. Then again, politically, I just like Austria because someone I like is from Austria. Okay, what else do we have here? Systems like SU. What could SU stand for? Social Unity. I don't know. Up to 5.5 years you get paid while you study. Wow. In Germany, there is certain payments that help you while you study, but in reality, first of all, it's not enough to buy food or housing. Okay, maybe food, but not housing, especially here in Berlin. Like everyone I had in my med school who wasn't as fortunate as me to have rich families, all of them had to work while studying in med school because it's not enough. Plus, the institutions that in theory should give you this money, this little money that already isn't enough, they also actively try to not give you the money. To the point where it's very popular for lawyers on YouTube, for German lawyers on YouTube, to advertise stuff like, oh yeah, I know every single one of you who wants to apply for this money just illegally is being pushed back to the point where they don't receive the money within their education. In extreme cases. So if you just give us $50, we're gonna sort that out for you, and all of a sudden you earned your right to get this money, which you have in theory, but the institutions don't actually act on it for some reason. It's super weird. Oh, that's super sad. Wow, I didn't hit any hit. Let's back up to here. So it is, in theory, something like this somewhat exists, but it's not good. Okay, this is bad, but teammate is here, so we're fine. Bad! Welcome, welcome. As a robotic engineer, I really don't see robots in an industry pushing humans out. I see it more as increasing productivity per worker. Instead of needing a welder to spend 5 days, you instead have one welder overseeing 4 robots. Which already is good. Like, good step towards the right decision, towards the right direction. SU is Statens, I'm not gonna try to pronounce that. Governmental education support. Ah. Scandinavian countries, I love you. I didn't know Denmark was part of the Scandinavian first world countries, but apparently Denmark is also a good country. Denmark is one of the good ones. We have it in Sweden too. Yeah, you are also part of the Scandinavian first world countries. Sweden, Norway, all of those awesome countries. I love them. Oh, now this person toggled up. That's pretty sad. But what does a welder who oversees the robots do what smart machines can't do in the late future? With AI? I also wonder. Very good question. It's one... Okay, let's use a proper money system here. 150 bucks per month for people living at home and 1,000 for people living alone. That's insane, wow. I mean, I'm not an expert on this whole system because I never experienced it firsthand because I'm a rich, filthy bastard. But from what I've heard, it's not 1,000 bucks. And for people who live with their parents, you don't get anything. Like, the moment you live with someone who earns average wage or something, you don't get anything. Because why would you need that money? This person can just pay for you. So yeah, that's crazy. Actually, no, I believe my girlfriend, even though she officially works, even though she officially lives with me and I earn money, I think she still got money when she was in her education. I really don't know how it works. Interesting. I'm a robotics programmer. I cannot weld like a welder, but I can teach a welder to use a welding robot in a week. Also, Raspberry's welcome. I don't know if I said welcome, but a doorbell rang. What could be... Did I order anything? I'm just gonna ignore it. Let's take a look at my phone. Did my girlfriend say anything? Nothing that suggests that she could be the one ringing. Just gonna ignore it. I've seen robotic integrations at companies that were near going bankrupt the year after they were back. Number 2. Oh. That's good. It gives people the ability to focus on studying instead of having to worry about working and jobs doing their studies. It's limited to 5 years. Yeah, that's a pretty good system. It's a very, very good system. I agree. Yeah. But yeah, the person that I've been recently... Was there another ring? Probably not. That's been way too long at this point. Nobody would wait that long until they would ring the doorbell again, surely. However, yeah, and it also didn't sound like the correct doorbell, so I don't think it happened. The YouTuber I started watching there, not only are their political views quite positive in my opinion, but also their general way to handle discourse, because for some reason they, which is good by the way, not for some reason I don't like this, but instead for some reason, wow, I rarely see this, even the person they hate most, they agree to if the person says something that is true. And this is something you don't really see. And that's quite good. And like they agree to their, like if they do something wrong, they are also like, oh, I guess I said something that wasn't right. I have to correct myself and everything, you know? That's awesome. You pay 40-ish per... Okay. I don't know how the tax system over there looks like, but here in Germany, that's, I think, the highest you can go, so... And I think it's like 250k per year upwards, so... I believe you that you earn well now. I believe you. I have a stroke. 10 streams. Very good, Fad. Very good. I don't see... Oh, that's gonna be interesting. That's so interesting. I can tell you my throat already hurts from all the talking. It's not good. My throat, ow. Ouchie, my throat. Ugh. Okay, let's see. I don't see the necessity, here we go, that's an actual word by the way, for that job when machines exist that can handle complex decisions based on... Now we're not gonna find out. Now we're gonna find out. But later. This person... Oh! Hey! Hey! He's gonna end up living. He's not. The kangaroo ability doesn't exist in this mode. Oh, speaking of the kangaroo ability, hopefully I will remember to avoid us cheating. Awesome. Based on large context, I would expect the trend coming soon. That would be good. Yeah, a system that takes care of people. That's cool. I like that. I like that. It's 8% on all work, 36 on top, with the first 40k untaxed. Okay, that's quite different from our system we have. But it's lower than what we have, so I welcome it. With that system, I think I would also be it would also be in the category, but I don't know. I'm from a... Oh, nah, here we go. Raspberry is saying stuff. Let's see. Oh, this person's dealing much more damage than I'm dealing. I'm a decently wealthy family in Sweden, and I get sended, although the only restriction I can think of is if you are tardy too much in a month, you might not get payment. In that month, in Sweden, we have a welfare where we pay parents a certain amount of support, but when the student gets into, which is high school, the money is sent to the students. So the parent, wow. Yeah, I think that's good. That's pretty good. Oh, what? Ah, I see. That makes sense. 6k. Yeah, okay. 40k would have been quite extreme, wouldn't it? It's funny how the not so intelligent Americans... I have to phrase it differently. I don't expect myself to get banned because of my not so nice things I say about Americans, but just in case, we can be nice to them. They have to suffer enough already. But it's funny how the not so smart Americans will immediately say you're a communist and this is so bad, we can't do this, the moment it's about supporting people. Oh, I think elderly people actually shouldn't have to live on the street at some point, but I think they should actually, like, have a chill rest of their days after they've worked for so long. You're a communist. I think you should be publicly executed. Oh yeah, but like, what about, kids? Like, shouldn't kids be supported? Oh yeah, we support kids. Unborn life can't be aborted. No, that's not the sort of kid support I was thinking about. Please, no. Oh, then you're a communist. Oh no. I guess I'm a communist. I feel like teammate doesn't have a great day. I feel like he's not doing well. What if I did this? Oh, the lag also affects me. I don't have enough time to properly do what I'm trying to do here. Okay, the bet is mine. So that worked. But the lag does affect me as well. Ah! I really enjoy this server. It appears to be doing very well. Yeah, but we also work with very complex machinery at work, and I have to admit I also more than once thought about, what if we just had a little R2-D2 like in the freaking spaceships in Star Wars? The moment a machine is damaged, the robot rolls out and just repairs it for us. I have thought of this many times as well, I can tell you. I really hope that's gonna be a thing in my lifetime. Oh, awesome. Is our bed gonna be gone? Probably, right? No, it's not. I don't have blocks, but surely I can chase this person down. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, well. Teammate still struggles with the bee-hopping person? I'm sorry, Red, I'm not really participating in the game with my brain. Okay, this red is chasing down teammate. I should probably just go back then. Oh no, you died. Okay. Like, maybe I overestimate AI's ability, but I really do feel like AI should be, like, able to do stuff like this, shouldn't it? Like, as if it's not able to find something that isn't working correctly in the machine. I feel like it should be better at that than the human, because it automatically is able to have every single piece of information about the machine it's looking at, whereas the human probably doesn't have every information possible at every second in time. I feel like AI could be better than that. It could be better than a human, but maybe that's a very bold assumption for someone who understands AI better than me. Obviously, if the repair robot itself is damaged, then yeah, okay. What are we gonna do? Regenesis, is that some sort of book about this scenario? On how our future could be, I see, I see. I think this now goes into a completely different direction, but I actually think not having to work is obviously good, but I am unsure.
I'm gonna cut off my balls.
Thank you, man. I'm unsure how many people realize a huge danger of not actively working, but instead just being able to spend your time however you want. That I have realized in the past. If I even have like 2 days off or 3 days off, this already starts slowly but steadily. It creeps up on me that if I'm not actively pushing my body every day, it falls into a state of weakness that I really don't enjoy and that I can't assume to be healthy for my cardiovascular system, you know? And I think once you are in the position to not have to work anymore, you should still make sure every day to really, like, not lay around in bed all day. Like, literally, if I lay in bed and just, I don't know, look at my phone or something, and I don't sleep or anything, but instead I just sit there and, or, like, lay there and look at my phone, after, like, a couple of hours, I immediately feel extremely weak. It's very, very bad. And so I think it's very important, if we ever get into the position, that we don't just use our time to relax, but instead still make sure to give our bodies something to work with. Else I don't think it's gonna end well. 1 hour in pull-ups is a pretty good thing. Okay. I'm starting to feel like focusing on the video game is near again. I'm starting to feel like it's not super far away anymore. It's not there just yet. It might not be there this game. Maybe it is. We'll see. I really do think you are overestimating it. I feel like specialized machine learning is good for QA and machines. However, is going to be the next part of that. But first, let me get this bed. What? Oh, good. But AI for repairs, I don't think though. We have machines that go around photographing machines. Now 2 with thermal cameras to find fault before they become a problem. They're not even close to being able to figure out what a fault is or fixing it. I do seem to overestimate it quite a bunch, but I'm genuinely confused by that fact, because I really thought that would be easy. Weird. But then again, like, whenever you ask an AI, one of those LLMs, whenever you ask them, like ChatGPT, Claude, or whoever, whenever you ask them a question about a topic that you are very knowledgeable about, you immediately notice how they're falling apart, you know? So I think LLMs, and this makes a lot of sense, like it's in their nature, but I think LLMs are super good at deceiving us into being this almighty super intelligent force, when in fact they really aren't, especially when it comes to more than just surface level fun facts. Once it gets into the depths and specifics, I think they're not that good, because whenever I talked with them about a topic that I know a bunch about, they made mistake after mistake. They could pretty much not give me any straight sentence that made sense or was factually correct. It's incredible. It's actually crazy how bad they are at that. So yeah, maybe I did overestimate them after all. It's like... My main concern for AI is workplace using it as an alternative to paying workers instead of using it as tools. This is where it gets into a little bit of a problematic future. And Draven already said a thing that I totally agree with. I believe all of this humans moving forward to create machines that work for them and everything, I think this would be super positive if it was going towards a future where the AI replaces us in a way where we still get paid and where we still have a super cool and comfortable life, but we don't have to work for it, but instead the AI does the job. However, with how unregulated capitalism is and how unregulated democracy is and everything, that is not gonna happen. Because the only reason for why companies would currently make use of this is not in order to take the work off their workers' shoulders and have them take the money for free, but instead it's just in order to cut costs. And they're not going to be cutting costs by just paying the people anyway, but not having them work, you know? That's not how they're cutting costs. And I think this is where we get into dangerous territory, because I think what is going to happen is at some point the machines are going to be cheaper than the humans, and the AI is going to be cheaper, and at that point the people are losing their jobs without getting paid for it, and then they just don't have a job anymore and don't have a paycheck anymore, you know? I think that is sadly the realistic option for what is going to happen. This awesome future that Draven and I are fantasizing about is possible, but with unregulated governments and capitalism and everything, like unregulated democracy and capitalism and everything, just not anything that's gonna happen, because that wouldn't be financially smart, and thus it's not gonna happen. So yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. That's pretty sad. Pretty good thing that Raspberry is bringing up here, and I think not a great future to look at. The machines don't know information about itself other than its sensors. Yeah, machines aren't allowed to be as smart as you think because of safety. So we have a guy that photographs the machine's control and power systems with AI to check if anything is overheating. Okay. Lol. Lol. Okay, wait, let's look at the frickin' dailies. Okay, we still need a couple final kills, but aside from that, we're pretty much done. That's good. I don't think this team is gonna play Dreams with me, though. Okay. Imagine giving an LLM the instruction manual for a machine, which is also what I had in mind. I think it would easily identify the correct troubleshooting steps with the same diagnosis data like the data a human would collect while troubleshooting. I also assumed if you train an AI specifically with what it has to know, then yeah. But then again, in my own daily life, I've seen that this exact thing pretty much did not output what you would believe it to output. I think the problem is just that LLMs, after all, are just an algorithm that predicts what probably could be the correct choice of word after the word they just placed. It doesn't actually diagnose anything, it doesn't make any analysis, it doesn't understand anything. Instead, it's just like, this word sounds pretty good. What if I place it exactly after this word? And I think that leads to an effect where maybe even if this principle of AI keeps being a thing, the AI is just never able to do something on this complex level. Like at work, in theory, we also have a work AI that is specifically fed with just the doctor-approved medical, exact, specific, correct information. And for some reason, for some odd reason, it still keeps hallucinating and making mistakes. Even though there's not a single piece of information wrong in there. There's nothing weird it got fed with, but instead it was fed with exactly the correct information, approved by doctors, specifically for this use case, and still it just feeds you with bullshit. And pretty regularly so. Like, I haven't been using this, but the 3 times that I saw a colleague making use of this, all 3 times, at least part of the answer of the LLM was incorrect. And that's just what we can immediately fact check. After all, we aren't all mighty, all-knowing creatures who know exactly everything about all the information there. It's like, there could be much more than that was wrong. So I feel like AI just isn't as great as a tool as we assumed it to be. Or as I definitely assumed it to be. The instruction manual doesn't contain troubleshooting steps or any mechanical info about the machine. And I would make the argument that even if that information as well is being fed into the AI, even if the information of experience and trial and error and everything, even if much more than just a manual is being fed into this, if like 10 people with 40 years of experience and all the knowledge you could imagine are training the AI with everything they have, even then, and even if all of the information is perfect and accurate and everything is cool, I think even then you would still have pretty frequent mistakes. Just from what I have experienced so far in the AI that I saw people use and in the AI that I've heard of. So I don't know if this is in general a problem of the frickin' AI, if we just haven't invented proper AI yet, like general intelligence AI that might be good at this. Maybe this is a general problem of the principle of LLM AI, where if you have an AI, no matter how good the data you feed it is, after all, it's just predicting stuff, it's just making shit up, and thus it will never be good. Maybe this complete system of AI is just not suitable for this. And maybe the AI that would be suitable isn't even invented yet. That's only what I assume as someone who's not knowledgeable, you know? A lot of the I also assumed so, Raspberry, but after looking at our workplace AI, either something went wrong there or the environment is just not the only factor. Because at first I was also like, yeah, okay, if you feed ChatGPT with all the information from the internet, in the end it's gonna be like, oh, you can change your light bulb by twisting it towards the left, and one user on Reddit says kill yourself. I also thought that was a problem, but maybe it's not. Maybe that's just not the problem. Maybe it's part of the problem, but maybe there's more that goes into it, you know? If an LLM applies reasoning, the output is a little more than just guessing the most likely next word. But is it? Do we have AI already that applies reasoning? Or do we just not... have that? Do we have AI that just guesses? I don't know it. How about we ask the AI? How about we ask the AI? We could do that, but maybe let's take out Aqua first. Because that is my theory I've developed just now. My theory is actually that it's pretty much the AI asking itself to question its own output. My current theory that I'm more than happily going to let someone disprove, my current theory is literally, we think AI is just a super intelligent tool that knows how to reason and critically think, but the AI that we have developed is just an LLM which just guesses which word is most likely to come next, and thus the AI that we have just isn't suitable for what we want it to do, and the actual AI that would be suitable, I don't know, general intelligence, for example, I don't know, maybe that is the actual AI that would be suitable, just wasn't invented yet. That is my theory. However, I don't know, and I'm more than happy to talk with an AI about this theory. Provide a reason for its own output and then recollect its thought. If you enable verbose on an AI, you see its thought process. I wish we gave AI a different name so it didn't have an association with the sci-fi stuff. Let's ask ChatGPT. Okay. Yo, ChatGPT, quick question. So basically, I'm debating this theory right now. My theory is the AI that we have invented, like you, for example, is LLM AI, which just guesses which word is most likely to come after another. This system of AI just isn't suitable, however, for actual critical thinking and actually performing complex tasks at a certain level that, for example, a human engineer could perform. Even if you would feed an AI with this system with the exact correct data and give it as much data points possible and like feed it with completely factual and perfect information on how to fix a machine, it still wouldn't be able to fix that machine as good as a human would, because in the end it just guesses which word is most likely to come after another. My theory continues by going as follows. The AI that in theory would be able to excel at this task apparently wasn't invented yet. I assume something like general intelligence probably is an AI type that would be able to do this. However, we haven't invented it yet. Is that theory correct? We have this thing called a track dog. That sounds amazing, but I will have to defend our motherland. Let's see. Okay, I think I can take a look at it. It protects trains from driving and under other trains have been lifted for... okay. One of the motor protectors kept erroring out in a very weird way. There's no way an AI would ever find that fault other than just replacing the whole chain of parts until it found the fault. I think this mechanic increases the accuracy to an extent that it can compete in the future. Seen? Oh, thank you. The AI has responded saying, that's a good question. I think your theory is partially correct, but there's one important assumption I challenge. The assumption is it just guesses the next word, therefore it can't reason. This sounds intuitive, but doesn't necessarily follow. Large language models like me are indeed trained with a simple objective, predict, blah 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 blah. Where the misconception comes in, the interesting part is that the training objective isn't the same thing as the capabilities that emerge. A bird flaps its wings to stay in the air. That doesn't mean all it's doing is flapping. Flying emerges from that simple mechanism. Do LLMs actually reason? This is a huge debate. Cam 1 says no, Cam 2 says somewhat, Cam 3 says yes. Can it outperform a human engineer? Blah blah blah. Analyze thousands of pages of documentation. I'm not convinced that's true. Okay, so in theory, I haven't read the entire thing because I'm much too lazy. But in theory, ChatGPT says it's not convinced that training an AI with perfect information leads to it still making mistakes. Well, assuming my workplace did their job properly, I can tell you that appears to be a thing. ChatGPT, I can teach you something as well here. But I don't know, maybe it's incorrect. I'm lucky that I'm going in a line that AI will not replace. Philosophy. Raspberry, you are a perfect fit. You are a perfect fit for this frickin' stream, dude. Philosophy is amazing. This is, in my opinion, the most interesting thing you can study. Nah, okay. But one of the most interesting educations to pursue. Philosophy is amazing. Now I understand how you can be this smart. No, but that's very cool, that's very cool. That is very cool. I have to get some final kills, else I'm not gonna be doing dreams today anymore. I only have 30 minutes to get a couple final kills here. I have to focus on the freaking game. Frig! You know what I consider to be interesting? For some reason, or how to phrase this, this is like super complex, but like at some point I developed this thought in my head that it feels like if you look at right-wing and left-wing political positions, there seems to be an objective truth, because for some reason right-wing politics seem to be objectively wrong most of the time, whereas left-wing politics seem to be objectively right most of the time. But this is such a complicated topic. I've looked into it and I've already forgotten most of it because it was so complicated. But bottom line, you can't make the general statement that left-wing positions are objectively true, whereas right-wing positions are objectively false. There's so much that goes into this, it's so complex, and it also depends on 1,000 factors at once, and it's very complex. And I think the bottom line was, you can't really say that. I'm probably trying to get a degree in something else too, as there's no That's great of you to say. I mean, first of all, I highly encourage you. Education and philosophy, awesome. Please keep pursuing, but maybe also do something that outputs any value in the job market, just for your own sake. However, I really like this. First you say, I'm lucky I'm going in a line that AI will not replace. Oh wait, no, you already said it in the original message, as there are no jobs to replace. Okay, well, that makes it a little less funny. I thought you were saying like, oh yeah, my job can't be replaced, and then in the second message, I'm probably gonna get a different degree, however, because there are just no jobs in my line. Still funny, still funny. It works well for programming design, and I agree it increases accuracy while also increasing price and processing costs. I think that LLMs are fundamentally flawed enough where they are better as companions and replacement for workers. We'll see where the future is headed. But I think in the end, we can all agree it would be awesome if we wouldn't have to work for our money anymore. Okay, blue, maybe cheats. I really have to force myself to play the video game to actually get the stuff necessary for my quests. I really have to force myself. Communist! Wow, I was not aware that you would immediately know that was coming. A lot of conservatives' positions are based on cultural issues rather than material issues, or at least that's my theory. Probably plays into it as well. It was a huge thing. It was immensely complex. More complex than we could probably break down in just 10 minutes of talking. Freaking hell, I messed it up completely. It's so sad. Well, first of all, one mistake I made was largely underestimated one factor, and the factor is I thought that right-wing positions bend the truth in order to feel more appealing. However, what I didn't realize is that left-wing positions also bend the truth towards their opinions, which makes sense, but I didn't consider that. Because naturally I don't believe myself to do that, and I also would not expect people around me to do that who have the same views. But it makes sense. Naturally, both sides of the equation are going to alter facts in a way to be in the right. That makes sense. There was one thing that went into that. And like certain topics are being truth bent more by certain spectrums of the political spectrum. Certain positions of the political spectrum. There were, for example, I think a good topic here is migration, and I think from what I've read, left-wing positions tend to bend the truth more when it comes to migration. Right wings do the same, just in the other directions, but left wings do too, to make it seem like, I don't know, it's less of an issue than it is or something, I don't know. Where one of the main topics where right-wing positions bent the truth was climate change. And I think the bottom line of are left-wingers just always objectively true, but right-wingers aren't, is, well, if you just look at the positions where the left-wingers are objectively true, then yeah. But if you look at positions where the left-wingers are the ones bending the truth, then no. There are certain truth bendings happening on both sides. However, I don't know if there's a position that does it more or does it less. For my personal feeling, obviously, my opponents here, the right-wingers, are probably bending the truth more, but who am I to judge that as someone who's entirely biased, you know? I personally like to think of and every person ever, but I'm still gonna say it, I personally like to think of myself as a person who, even if something goes against their agenda, agrees to that it goes against their agenda, and I would think that I'm better at this than the average person, because I don't feel the need to appear moral to other people. Like, I consider many standpoints to be factually true that I work against. For example, I totally agree that it is morally correct and philosophically true that you should not eat animals if you don't also want to eat disabled people, for example, to have an extreme example here. But I'm just gonna say I don't care. I'm a hypocrite, I agree, and I don't care to harm animals. I like them, I like their taste. It's okay. I'm wrong, but it's okay. Like, my cognitive dissonance isn't super hurtful for me. So I like to think of myself as someone who doesn't have to bend the truth in order to still stand behind their positions. Like, I can just say, yeah, this is my position, but I personally don't follow it, but I still think this should be the position to go for. But knowing people and knowing human biases, there's probably also stuff that I don't want to agree to, even though it's correct or something. I don't know. If I had examples, then I would change it, you know? Everybody lies for their cause, exactly. Even though I really think of myself as someone who doesn't do it, but everyone thinks of themselves as someone who doesn't do that, you know? So, knowing this, it would be super stupid of me to assume myself to be free from that, you know? I like the topic because I'm studying the topic of reification. Reify, verb, means to make an abstract idea, concept, or feeling feel concrete, real, or tangible. I believe culture is something that is very reified. Wow, okay. I see. And I also see huge potential to have ongoing debates about that in many different directions, but yeah, interesting. I'm water bending here. I may be biased of AI because it could also come for my job, you know? Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I don't know, I just feel like obviously everything is a spectrum, and I think there's a spectrum from someone who is not aware of anything of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They've never heard of that. They don't critically think about themselves at all. They're completely gullible and lie without knowing and everything, to the person who is a literal saint and never lies and never deceives themselves and doesn't have any human biases, nothing. I don't know if that person exists, but there's a huge gray area in between those two. And I would definitely say I am leaning more towards the other extreme of understanding one's own biases and everything. However, there's definitely still room for improvement, and there are definitely people who do this better than me. And yeah, it would just be foolish to think of myself as being perfect or even very good in this sense. That would just be foolish. But this is a very complicated moment. Like, the moment I say it would be stupid of me to assume I'm good at this is also the moment where I show that I'm good at this, because else I wouldn't ask myself this question. It gets very interesting, but like, I think you're on the safe side if you assume yourself to not be very knowledgeable, and if you assume yourself to not be very good. I think there are many principles that help you overcome biases and be better in this whole discourse culture. And I think some of the most important things are, no matter how sure you are of something, keep being open-minded about the possibility that it's very, very possible that you are wrong. Just keep being open-minded, very important, first of all. And there are a couple other concepts that come with this that I won't name because I'm too lazy to think. But like, there are many things that you should pay attention to and that you should integrate into your belief system that are going to make it at least less likely for you to fall victim to this. And yeah, nobody should ever be satisfied with their current knowledge or understanding. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, this is getting worse and worse, huh? See? Okay. I think we are both dying here. Yeah, our bed is gone. Why are we okay, never mind. I was about to ask, why are we facing blatant cheaters every game? It's Hypixel. It's actually normal. This is not even trying to be making fun of Hypixel with untrue statements. This is literally just the truth. Like, we have statistically proven that Hypixel is the server where 9 out of 15 games you run into blatant cheaters. It's this is yeah. Oh, the doorbell rang for a birthday present of my girlfriend, which is now at the neighbor's apartment. And this is also why I value this YouTuber that I've discovered recently, or that I've discovered enjoying recently. I have known of this YouTuber for quite some time, but this is also one of the major factors, as I mentioned. It's just, they look at something, and even if it goes against their own belief system, they're like, oh, well, okay, I guess this is untrue then. It's just a level of critical thinking that I enjoy, I have to admit. And I think this way, you get closer and closer to stuff like understanding concepts and the actual truth. Like, I don't know, the actual truth sounds like a wild thing, but you go very, you have the potential to get much closer to what actually is true scientifically. Like, if I wouldn't be the person that I am, and if I wasn't so open-minded when it comes to being wrong and everything, then I would not have learned as much from Zaz as I would have learned, as I did learn. I learned so much from Zaz just because I kept assuming, okay, I'm a toddler-brained, stupid person, and I have to be taught. If I assume something to be right, then it's probably not right. I need more information. Give me even more information. Okay. Someone should do a study on what percent of games have cheaters. You mean how high the cheating percentages in games are? Because I assume every game probably has cheaters. I don't think that would be super interesting. Robin Hood, welcome. No, I'm not gonna accept the friend request. Steno, I'm also not gonna accept the friend request. And Draven, I'm also not gonna accept the friend request. Oh, my back. This is not your account? Wow. You should sue the person using your name. I go into 100 lobbies of BedWars and see what percentage... Ah, yeah, that's more what I thought this was about. That's exactly where it makes sense. That would be quite interesting. Like, my sample size 15 study concluded that 60-something% of people are cheating. Or 60-something% of lobbies have cheaters in them. I think sample size 15 is more than enough, isn't it? That should be much more than enough. Nice, but he takes the OKB, so not worth too much. Okay, but you seem to have more health. Awesome. No, there's someone above you, teammate. You're a poor soul. Okay, no, you're a safe soul. I see. I always assume people are just better than me, so I never notice cheaters unless they're doing obvious stuff like fly icon or something. Depending on how big your ego is, I feel like you have a higher or lower tendency to assume people are cheating who are just better than you. And, yeah. Even though that might not be true. Because I think a couple years ago, too, I didn't really have the biggest ego. Maybe I had a pretty big game-specific ego. But, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows anything at this point? What was this name again? I want to figure out this name again. A long time ago, ZazVGC. You don't know ZazVGC. You do, but ChatGPT doesn't. Thank you for the follow, Raspberry. A long time ago, ZazVGC told me about how do we know things. The science of how we know things, which is something I always hoped that existed, but I never had the name for it, and I always considered to be insanely interesting. And he told me the name, and it was a very complicated name. What was the science of how do we know people called again? And maybe if we're at it already, please explain the science of how do we know stuff. Okay. Let's see. He misspelled ZazVGC. The look, yes, epistemology. Not even a hard word, but for some reason I didn't remember. Epistemology is a branch of philosophy. Ah, yes, my homie philosophy. I love philosophy. And I knew it was a branch of philosophy. Obviously it was. It perfectly fits in there. It's a branch of philosophy that asks questions like, what does it mean to know something? How is knowledge different from belief? How can we justify our beliefs? Can we ever be certain? Can we ever be certain? It's beautiful. How reliable are our senses? What counts as evidence? When should we change our minds? Why did I not study philosophy? Why did I study something that brings in the big clams? I should have just not studied something that brings in the big clams. I should have studied philosophy. OnlyFans? I'm sorry, not yet. A classic example. I'm ready for the classic example. I tell you, it will rain tomorrow. You might believe me, but do you know it? An epistemologist would ask, did you check a weather model? Did you just guess? Did someone reliable tell you? Could you be wrong? The focus isn't on whether it actually rains, it's on whether your belief was justified. The traditional definition of knowledge: justified true belief. Interesting. 3 conditions had to hold. You believe it? It is actually true? Yeah, how do we know it's actually true? You have good reasons for believing it. I know Berlin is in Germany. I believe it. It is true. You have good evidence. I feel like we're fishing one stage above where we should be fishing, because part of this is the assumption that it's true, but I want to go a little deeper. I want to put in the hook at the point of, how do I know that it is true? But then things got weird. I think we're getting into that now. Okay, it's not always enough. Exactly, it's not. I mean, in this case, yeah, Berlin is in Germany. Okay, but in this case, it's not enough. In some cases, it's not enough. Imagine you look at a clock. It says 3 p.m. Unknown to you, the clock has been broken for months. By sheer coincidence, you happened to look at it at exactly 3 p.m. You believed it was 3. It was 3. And you even had what seemed like good evidence. But would you say you knew it was 3? Most people would say no, it was just luck. This sparked decades of debates that continues today. 1S too much. Where does knowledge come from? Perception, reason, memory, testimony, scientific investigation. Much of what you know actually comes from testimony. You've probably never personally verified that electrons exist, so Australia is where the map places it. Yeah, exactly. It has become more relevant because of misinformation, social media, AI, deepfakes, conspiracy theories, scientific uncertainty. Interesting. Interesting. Logic, philosophy of science, cognitive science, and I don't know this, Bayesian epistemology, how rational beliefs should be updated as new evidence arrives, often using probability. I do this. How cool is that? Okay, I focus more on ontology. Is that not looking at birds? Yeah, I think an ontologist is someone who looks at birds. Ontology, or am I getting something wrong here? Am I confusing stuff in my head? But I find it fascinating because it overlaps with my interest in philosophy a bit, and I was going to read up on it next week. Awesome. I'm glad I picked something easy like robotics engine here. Ontology is a philosophical study of existence, reality, and the nature of being. Ornithology was the bird thing. I remember. But ontology, some info too, please. Ontology asks something even more fundamental. What actually exists? Ah, okay, that's interesting. It's a type of metaphysic, is what Raspberry says. However, ChatGPT follows up with, what does it mean for something to exist? Oh, okay, let's read out these questions and then we're gonna try to answer them. Are numbers real or just useful ideas? Ooh. I think this feels like a good question at first, but if you think about it, it's a stupid question. But let's keep going. Does time exist independently, or is it just something our minds construct? I see, and I've got some ideas. Numbers are linguistic tools, is what Raspberry says. What is a person? Is it your body, your brain, your memories, or something else? What makes a chair a chair? I've seen that Vsauce video, ChatGPT. I've seen it! If you replace every piece of it over time, is it still the same chair? This is related to the famous ship of Theseus. Theseus, however you call him in English. Amazing, amazing. This is great. Time doesn't exist. It's constructed, is what Raspberry says. My beloved ship. Nah, teammate has to go. My life is in shambles. Thank you. See ya. My life is in shambles. I want to answer the questions. However, I need 5 final kills. Why? FM root. FM root? What? Haha. FM root. Here we go. def and TNT, you bridge, here we go. What does it mean for something to exist? That's the first question. I would say for something to exist, it needs to be detectable with our senses, or detectable with our senses in combination with extensions of our senses, I would say. So everything I can measure, see, taste, all of that probably exists, I would say. However, there's probably stuff that exists that we can measure or sense. But it would be quite philosophical to think about, is everything we can't perceive, does it still exist? Like the moment you stop perceiving something, does that still exist? I think that's a quite common argument to have had, right? I would say yes, but then it goes against my definition I've created. Oh, I love this. It's great. Life is good, isn't it? Cool. Why is this so much more engaging than anything else I have in my life? Your entire philosophy goes against that argument. Does something still exist? It's a typical from Timmy Turner from Fairly Odd Parents. AJ, if a tree falls down in a forest but no one is there to hear it, does it still exist, or is it still making a noise? Does that noise exist if no one is there to detect it? I think, by definition, we can't answer this question. Because if we can't detect it, then lol, you know? Schrödinger's noise. There's people to be afraid of here. White, for example, and my teammate. Okay, my teammate is my teammate, luckily. So yeah, I feel like you could obviously take the easy way out and say everything I can perceive or measure or whatever does exist. I'm afraid. Don't be afraid, Xeno. Why are you afraid? But then again, that definition would make it so you'd have to also agree, logic and reasoning, it would logically be correct according to this definition that things that are not measurable don't exist. And like, does it have to be just objectively measurable, or, and this is where the tree thing comes in, does it have to be perceived by a living being, or by a human, or an animal as well, perhaps? Who has to perceive it? It's not easy to answer. Who would have thought the person to be afraid of is to be afraid of? Wow. Let's jump into my teammate. Can we make a definition that includes this? Or solves this problem? Probably not, right? Else we would probably get the philosophy Nobel Prize or something. Material reality is independent of your consciousness, or the observer. We are observers of objective reality. The problem is we perceive it through lenses created by our minds. Obviously, that also changes things. Is there even such thing as an objective reality, or is there only realities based on the observer? Is there an objective, observer-independent reality? And this goes for many different trains of thought, like do you have a fireball to get out of there, or are you just... Oh! Okay. Wow. Well done, team. Very nice try. Yeah, that's quite interesting. That is quite interesting. Very, very interesting. Who's your teammate from Timu? Very, very interesting. Man. Man. Schrödinger's noise is great. If something isn't observed, it both happens and doesn't at the same time until it's observed. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a question. Is there an observer-independent objective reality, or is the universe smart enough to to do the usual programming trick of just render the stuff once it's inside or interactable. If a bird observes a tree falling in the forest, but the bird isn't observed by us, then the tree isn't observed relative to... What? Then the tree isn't observed relative to us. I think that is how it works. But if the bird changes its flight path because the tree fell in the way, then we can conclude based off the bird if the tree fell or not. I see. But the bird is also a living being. There it also comes into play. Do we define an observer as... Oh, okay. Dude, have a stroke. Awesome thought. I think it's not only observer, but also is there an objective reality beyond? Like, because you could always say particles interact with each other in a way that there's always going to be something that interacts, you know? Like, interaction is always happening on a molecular level. So you could rephrase to the observer doesn't have to be a living being. The observer can just as well be anything. The observer can also be an interactor. So you could rephrase it from observer to interactor. Does something exist beyond its perception or perception, more or less perception? I don't know if you can call it a perception, but does reality exist beyond the interaction with an interactor? You could probably phrase that more intelligently. But that is a question to ask, I would say. Very good, Haverstroke. Awesome. And Raspberry says reality goes with or without an interactor. However, there is where it changes from factual scientific knowledge to religion, more or less, to belief. Because the definition that we have made, by definition, isn't provable. Because if the basis for something that we question to work also makes it unprovable by not having any interaction with anything that could lead to an observation that could make any statement about it, then by definition we just have to believe that it works and don't actually know if it works. Very interesting. Welcome to the first philosophy class. Welcome. DFD Marky, welcome. You stumbled into something. You have gotten yourself into some trouble. If you are not interested in this as well, then you probably are going to have a challenging time. Everything is an agent within reality. Observers are just another type of agent. Well, yeah. Okay. I see where you're going with this. I don't know if I agree, but I see. If an object has been observed. If an object has been observed. Changes depending on who you ask. What? It'd be putting two cats in Schrödinger's box. There's one cat to observe the death of the other, but it doesn't matter since it's not observed by the... Yeah, I see. I see. And then there's also the fact that I'm pretty sure we have scientifically proven that reality changes based on our methods of observation. So unless there's undiscovered methods of observation that truly go without interacting, the process of the interaction that leads to the information output that tells us if something exists, or at least in which state it exists. I already forgot how I started the sentence, but it would have been a smart sentence, and I think you know where I'm going with this. This begs the question, you know, this begs the question it begs. It probably leads to some very interesting questions. However, I feel like either my brain capacity by default isn't big enough to convey my thoughts in English, or it's because my hands are also doing stuff here, and that leads to an effect where my brain isn't big enough to, isn't able to do this. Alright, interesting. And that's just the first question. But I also need to get foul kills, Frank. Can I have the last? Nope. Wait, I forgot about something. I forgot about many things. Okay, no, this is good. Love thinking about quantum mechanics. I don't know if I do. Haven't been thinking about it too much yet. How is this still not enough? Okay, how much do I frickin' need? I won't even get this today unless I throw like a pearl or something. I gotta throw pearls, frick. Frick. Okay, second question. Are numbers real or are they just useful ideas? I think I agree with Raspberry. I think Raspberry earlier said that numbers are just something made up by us humans to make reality understandable. So in theory, what the numbers mean obviously exists. Linguistic tools, here we go. But if you ask, does this number actually exist? Then, okay, obviously it does exist, because, like, we made it up, but, like, it wouldn't else be part of reality in this specific form. What it describes is part of reality, but this itself exists, yes, but just as a tool to perceive and describe and discuss reality. Does time exist independently, or is it some... I think same here, right? The same question. Then again, time is a natural physical constant that does interact with the environment. Or you could make the same argument and be like, well, no, time as a concept is also just a linguistic tool to describe a thing that does interact with reality and the way time interacts according to Einstein. What is a person? Yeah, okay, I don't know. The frickin' Theseus, whatever, ship theory. Oh, I think this person might be cheating. I don't know, however. Yeah, at which point do you... I think that just depends on your personal interpretation. I don't think there's a general truth or a general one correct answer. Yeah, it depends on where you draw the line. Now, Raspberry is making the statement that future and past don't exist, but only present. Frick! It's very important for me to also get foul kills, but for some reason I just can't. It's super sad. Isn't LLV10 a viewer of mine? Or am I mixing things up here? Okay. It's about word games. That's a very funny description. There you go. I don't know how many foul kills I still need, like 2? Okay. That is a good question though. Like, I think that's the same as with the something I don't see or feel or smell or whatever. Does it still exist? I think that goes into the same... goes into the same category. Ah yes, very interesting, very, very interesting. But I don't think this is the most interesting part of studying philosophy. There are many things that make up the study, the education, the philosophy. Many things, components of it. And while this is one of the most interesting parts of it, there is another branch that I consider to be even also very interesting. I don't know if even more interesting, but also very interesting. And it is just logic. No. Because I think part of the philosophy education is also logic training, which I also think is super interesting because it's the key to many things that I like. Ugh. I wanted to prevent him from triggering a trap. Oh, this is a bad position. Old Soviet textbooks about logic are good. Okay. Ethics and morality, the most boring part of philosophy, because they're just social constructs. Ooh, that's very interesting. Are they so... I consider them to be interesting. However, just because I consider them to be interesting doesn't mean that I disagree with you that they're social constructs. I personally just never thought of that. And now I wonder if that is the case. Well, I'm just dead. Unless you are religious. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It would probably be easier to agree with you depending on the exact definitions and a little more knowledge. But I'm pretty sure if you would have some checkboxes of what is a social construct and what actually exists in reality or something, then I think you would get to the conclusion that social construct, these two are. I transformed into Yoda. I couldn't close. Oh, and now obviously I couldn't close it. That's what I told the judge. Yeah, I believe so too. That always reminds me, good job teammate, that always reminds me of when I was in politics class and I was like, why don't we just go to all those poor countries where they just bash each other's heads in because of religion, and we just, you know, shoot all the extremists dead and force all the people to not fight anymore and like do what we consider to be good and correct. However, I didn't phrase it as in do what we consider to be good and correct, but I phrased it as in what is good and correct. And then my politics teacher was like, well, who is to say... Yeah, first of all, it's blatant colonialism. But my politics teacher was like, but who is to say what is good and correct? And I was like, obviously this is good and correct. Yeah, but that's just what you say. Like, those people also say that what they are doing is good and correct. And then I was like, oh, okay. Well. How did he get over there so quickly? I thought he was going to try to follow me up. He knew I was going to jump down on his bed. What a crazy foresight. Who would have thought? Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay, oh, well. And then I changed my view of the world to, I think we should go to these countries and colonialize them because I think that I like my understanding of moral better. I agree that it's not objectively better. Obviously it's not. But I personally, ego-utilitarism, however I called it, ego-literistic or whatever I called it earlier, utilitaristic to the point, all the way up until the point where I say that I personally don't want it anymore. That's where that comes into play, and at that point I'm like, yes, I agree that objectively this is true, but I personally like myself better, so we're gonna do it anyway. Oh, well. That's great. That's very great. Maybe we should get RB too. So yeah, lol. Man. It's crazy how far I've come, because I remember exactly back then I also had beliefs like, well, the German race has to be superior because all the smart inventions and smart people were German. What the hell? What the heck? What? This is crazy. And like, this is this typical meme. Maybe it's not. I didn't read the actual statistics, but I'm gonna assume it's this typical meme, okay? Thank you, Avastroke, to make sure that we're not gonna have a second bad guy. However, I think, do you know this meme where there's this is IQ and there's a stupid person, middle smart person, and very smart person, and the stupid person and the very smart person are saying the same thing? I think this is literally this meme. As I said, maybe the IQ bell curve. Maybe this is not true because I haven't read statistics even to this point, but the way I developed and the way I think the IQ distribution, the IQ bell curve says, is literally the German race is superior, thus we made all the good inventions. To no, this is not true, the other people are just as smart, thus everyone made the same amount of invention. To, well, the Western civilized world probably actually made more inventions, but it's not because these people are dumber per se, because they're genetically inferior, but instead it's just because the frickin' colonialization made them not develop and made it so they are just poor people and can't afford to invent stuff, you know? That's like, they just didn't have the possibility to do so. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of like punching a person in the leg so often that they can't do as many squats, and then you yourself, you didn't get punched, and then you make more squats, and then you're like, ha! Genetically inferior person didn't make as many squats as I did. Ha ha! I am so good and Western and white. That's like... Yeah, what am I gonna say? Funny. Very funny. Very, very funny. Okay, no. I thought I heard a key. Come here, T-Man. Come here. Come here. Okay. Yeah, it's great. It's great, it's great. Oh, that was a good double hit. Don't mind if I do. Did we get Arby now? I forgot. Did we place it? Good question. Good question. Ah, yes, all of these topics are so cool. So interesting. Whenever I stream and talk about these topics, you get a quick glimpse into what I listen to all day. Just discourse based on 10 million different topics. It's, I don't know. Ah. Okay, you aren't particularly good at the game. Don't mind that. Okay. We have to get all of that good stuff back in here. Or are you gonna be sneaking too? You're gonna be sneaking too? Okay. No, I won't accept the friend request. I won't do it. Yeah, it's the same answer as with the black people, where Ben Shapiro in the first SJW compilation is like, oh yeah, but tell me, why are the black people so stupid? Haha, they have less education. Haha, they shoot each other more. Haha. Yeah, because of racism. It's entirely just racism. It's not any genetic component, as you're suggesting. It's not culture. I think he suggests culture, inferior culture. No, it's actually because of people like you. It's because of racists. Then again, who knows? Maybe Ben Shapiro is not a racist. I don't know. Who am I to judge? But I've heard someone say he's a racist. Not to say that I agree, but I've heard someone say it. Just as I heard people who say my former histology teacher from school should be publicly executed. I wouldn't agree, but I've heard people say it. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I don't know. I love our public broadcaster, P3, because they are just not afraid to call out the government, and they do all kinds of sketches on politics. That is good. Our media landscape is very complicated, and there's people who are calling out the government, but they have their own types of issues. It's incredibly diverse. It's all sorts of, and even the less good people who do journalism also do good stuff here and there. It's like, that's the reason for why I consume many different types of media, many different news outlets, and I just pick out the valuable information. Sounds not good, sounds bad, but trust me, I do it in a good way. I do it by just critically thinking about what they are saying and not blindly believing it. And then whenever they say something that obviously isn't true, or that just, I don't know, is a lie or whatever, just not true, I can be like, well, I do like this media outlet, but apparently this is untrue. I don't like that. No. I'm not gonna just blindly believe that. That probably describes it much better and sounds less scary. 22 viewers, whoop. How even? With the topics we are talking about, I shouldn't have 22 viewers, should I? We ruined their economy, and their economy is not first world now, therefore they must be inferior. Yeah. Fairly free is exactly what I love to hear. Hey, what? Teammate, thank you so much for the Prime subscription. Thank you very much from your teammate. Yeah, thank you. And again, it shows that T-Cookie is the only one who doesn't get a notification from his Prime subscription. Thank you so much, man. Thank you very much. So we're at 71 subs again now, huh? Dude, what the hell? Obviously entertaining too. They had one about how the government kept selling parts of... good. I made it. But I should make it back to... Don't feel safe. Were they selling the Copenhagen S-Bahn to the Nazis in a funny... Yeah, we also have those sorts of news outlets, but like... Sometimes they do good stuff, sometimes it's not as good. What I just don't really like is that they can, like, they do incredibly valuable reports, but every once in a while they do something that is just so blatantly wrong and destroys people's lives, and it's just brazen, but they don't really get punished for it or have to correct themselves on their mistakes. Just to name one very popular show here. And I always look at it with a laughing and a crying eye, because I'm like, I really enjoy your journalism and your investigative journalism that is good and high quality and everything. But every once in a while, you just release a piece of journalism where I'm like, are you dense? What the hell? This is terribly bad. You should pay for this. You should pay a fine for this and be punished harshly, and you should have to apologize and present the actual facts now. But they just ignore it and don't take accountability, which I don't like. I really don't. I burned their house down and now they're homeless. Must be lazy. That's great. It's great. I think it's natural for humans to oh wait, I thought my teammate was totally coming out on top here. I think it's quite natural for humans who are also not going to break this. I'm sorry. It's very natural from the way human psyche works that that the easiest explanation is being accepted widely, and people don't really understand topics and just take misinformation or half correct information at face value and everything. I think that's very understandable, considering that us humans were just striving for easy explanations, you know. It's sadly something. It's very sadly something that is a thing in humans. Yeah. Okay, what's up with the other guy? Oh, okay. Oh. I never expected to see a Minecraft Twitch streamer who's actually intelligent and has good takes. Can I have the name too? Like, I don't watch streams, but maybe they have a good highlight channel that I can watch. Ah! If only I could have a good Twitch streamer who's also good at the video game while talking smart stuff, you know? I would be pretty happy about that, because then I wouldn't have to waste all of this time trying to get the final kills. Okay, here we go. Maybe now's the time to use brain real quick. I can't wait to read Nikitush's compliment as well. But first I have to... Ah! Hold on for dear life. Aqua. No, none of that. Okay, yay! Got a final kill. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that's good. Refreshing stream among so much brain rot on Twitch. Is Twitch that bad? Yeah. Oh god. Sad. But thank you. Ah, that's just teammate, okay. Politics and philosophy. Robin Hood is going for the highlight channel. Nice. Politics and philosophy are very complicated subjects that regular people are forced to engage with. I think... I agree, yeah. They are complicated topics. And... I believe that if you aren't interested in a topic, that makes it 10 times harder for you to actually understand it and, like, you know, all that is associated with that. I had thousands of those experiences in school with topics I didn't really enjoy, so obviously if you enjoy a topic and are interested in it, you're gonna understand it much better, perform much better at it, gonna have an easier time learning stuff and everything. And I think politics and philosophy is just something most people are, or many people, I don't know the statistics, but I would assume many people aren't super interested in that. And on top of that, they are quite complicated, and all of that leads to, obviously people are not going to be good at understanding this, because most people don't really, like, care about it too much, aren't really interested, plus it's complicated, and that just is a formula that leads to disaster. Naturally, I, as someone who's interested, am going to be having a much easier time at understanding it and, like, memorizing facts about it and using them to make further evaluations in my head and everything. Yeah. That's all I'm gonna say for now. Yeah, okay. Because I have to break a bed. It took the character development to get here. Yeah. A bunch. I pretty much, yeah, I mentioned that already today. I went from being a full-blown Nazi to being exactly the opposite politically. Ugh, man. I would like to say, because this is what helped for me, you should exclude Nazis from society and make fun of them and punch them and take away their stuff and be very bad to them and, you know, all of that stuff, because that's what worked for me. But I think statistics show that this is exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do to the average Nazi. Usually that leads to the opposite reaction and just increases extremism and all of that even more. So, yeah. After my beloved, oh god. So don't do it. I already have all the finals, by the way, so... Wait, that gone? Ooh, I see. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, okay, I catch it quite high. But not bad. Is teammate even here? Void? Can I say Void? I don't know, is he here? I think that's him, right? Okay, good. I wouldn't be surprised if Gray was jumping down soon. Okay, he triggered a trap. Frick, I'm standing in the fire. No, no, bad. Okay. Made a mistake. Maybe you usually don't have interest in topics you have a hard time to understand. Surely that statement holds true as well. But I don't know how to puzzle it into my understanding of the situation, I have to admit. I think I got the quest right. And he has to go. Perfect. Usually you don't have interest in topic that you have a hard time to understand. Okay. Even if it's a complicated topic, everyone perceives different topics as more like on a different level of how complicated they are. So if this might not be as complicated to me as it is to someone else, and it being not super complicated makes it so I enjoy it more because it's easier to get into and it's a self-increasing effect. I think a more accurate theory here, based on what Draven said and how I understand it, is probably to say depending on person, certain topics are easier for you to understand. And if you have a topic that is easier for you to understand, you can get into it more easily. And then it becomes a vicious circle, but a positive vicious circle, because you are interested, which made you get into it more easily in the first place, but you're also interested, which makes you want to learn more about it, and it also makes it so all of that, and then self-fulfilling prophecy or something. I don't know, my brain is too cooked to really transform this into anything, I have to admit. I mean, I guess maybe, like, you can't for sure say that just because you are interested in something that makes it easier for you to understand it, but it makes the process less exhausting, and thus it feels like it's easier. You still have to invest the same amount of effort. It's not easier because for some reason you just have it easier because you understand it, because you are interested, but instead it just makes it more chill for you because you are interested. It makes it less exhausting to look into it to the extent you have to look into it in order for yourself to get a better understanding of the situation. So thanks to Draven, I rephrased my theory to be high interest in a topic makes it less exhausting for you to spend the effort necessary to understand it. Thus, you are more likely to understand the topic. The objective effort it takes is still dependent on you as a person, however, and isn't I mean, what you consider to be interesting is also dependent on you as a person, but what you consider to be interesting as a person is a metric, and how easy this specific topic for you is as a person, and they don't interact with each other, but instead they are randomized in the people. And just because this interest is very high doesn't mean that necessarily this is also very high, but instead it just feels like it because of the way I explained it. That's my new theory. However, I have seen that you're a multi-millionaire, so can you give me a sub? Oh no, poor Haverstrug. However, my voice hurts. My entire throat hurts from all this talking, but it was a super interesting stream, I can tell you. I can also tell you that I have toyed around with the idea of starting a channel just dedicated to these topics many times, but I never really do it for some reason, and there's always something that makes it so I don't want to do it after all. It's a very difficult topic. And at least once a month I gather the motivation to do so just because it's so interesting, but then I end up not doing it because I realize, and this and that and no and it's sad, but at least I have the streams where we can talk like this. I don't know if this channel will ever exist, but the Twitch channel does exist, and on here we can talk about it, and that's fun too. Okay. I'm looking forward to not be speaking as much anymore. My voice is so exhausted. Or we could do that, yeah. Or we could do that, have a stroke. Alright, I really hope you enjoyed this stream. If you did so, go ahead and head on over, even though the focus was not on gameplay today, but you can head on over to this channel. You can find its link in the freaking Twitch chat right now. And on there you are going to find highlights, and I don't even know if I want to be going for 100k anymore. Thank you, Matt. I might stop payments on the advertisement on that channel, and might try to go for 100k legitly with my project that I'm working on right now. But I don't know. For now, I'll keep it running and I'll see how to handle it. However, if you want to see more gameplay, at least, maybe not more debates like this, but if you also enjoyed the gameplay, you can check out that channel and subscribe for free. If you haven't followed yet and you really enjoyed what you heard and saw today and all the philosophy stuff and everything that does happen quite often on here, and politics and everything, then go ahead and follow the Twitch channel and turn on notifications, so this way we're definitely going to see each other again. Oh, I have to... I take out my stick. Ooh. And yeah. Aside from that, now have yourself a wonderful rest of the day or night, and goodbye. And now we're gonna raid someone, and I already know who we are going to raid. It is going to be Ashi TV. Let's see. Ashi TV. Haha. Start raid. 11 viewers playing Air Show with 2,400 stars. I didn't know that. Wow. 6 views ready in 6 seconds. 12 views ready in 4 seconds. 13 views ready in 3 seconds. Have yourself a lot of fun over there. See ya.